Tonight, on First at 9 this Thursday, the 4th of December 2025. Ominous rains. Death toll of Cyclone Ditwa reaches 486. 341 still missing. Northeastern monsoons strike Colombo. Civilizational twins. Talks ongoing to assist Sri Lanka ensure food and health security, says the Indian envoy in Colombo. Pledges continued humanitarian assistance to flood and landslide ravaged Sri Lanka. Piling up. 19,000 expats contribute to rebuilding Sri Lanka. ADB approves $3 million while IMF expedites sixth tranche under the EFF agreement. The Reconnect. CEB restores 86% of disrupted power lines. Telephone lines across 20 districts also restored.
Kalin baby so rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're joining First at 9 on Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, the Derana News channel. I'm Tharindu Mahendra joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story tonight, search operations are still underway to locate the missing in the aftermath of devastating landslides that rocked several areas of Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, residents of many areas have been rendered helpless as farms, fields and houses have been destroyed by the adverse weather.
Search operations to locate the missing in the wake of devastating landslides that rocked several areas including Badulla, Gampola and Kandy are still underway. In Soranatota Passara in Badulla, search operations continued over the past few days. However, the Assistant Director of Disaster Management of the Badulla district revealed that operations have been temporarily halted due to rain. 2 bodies were recovered during the search efforts over the past few days, but the bodies of a missing child and another individual have not yet been found. Meanwhile, water levels at the University of Peradeniya receded today. With the opening of the spill gates of the Moragahakanda Reservoir and the release of water into the Aman River, a section of the soil embankment of the Alahara Anicut, a UNESCO World Heritage, built across the river, collapsed. A total of 85,000 polysac bags and 4,500 jumbo bags will be required to restore the embankment. The Alahara Anicut is the main waterway that channels water to all fields in Alahara, Giritale, Minneriya, Kaudulla and Kantale through the Alahara Yoda Ala. Meanwhile, several houses in Singharajagama Polonnaruwa were destroyed due to flooding caused by the overflowing of the Mahavali River. In a separate development, water levels in several areas of the Somavatiya temple have receded and cleanup operations have begun. A significant number of paddy fields in the Mahavali Sea region of Dehiyattakandiya were damaged by the overflowing of the Mahavali River. Farmers in the area are requesting assistance to resume cultivation. Several areas, including the Muttur town, remain inundated due to fractures that have appeared on the embankment of the Mavilaru Reservoir. Cleanup operations have begun in Sirimangalapura area in Serunuvara Kantale after floodwaters receded. In the meantime, cleanup efforts were underway at the Gampaha bus stand and the railway station. In Karandagahamada Hasalaka, 11 houses were destroyed by landslides. A landslide in Udavatta village, also in Hasalaka, damaged many houses, rendering reconstruction extremely difficult. As landslide concerns gradually ease across the country, an earth slip was reported in the Kotikapala area in Hasalaka this afternoon. To avoid the loss of life, residents were promptly evacuated with the assistance of the Hasalaka police and the divisional secretariat. Floodwaters of several areas which were submerged by incessant rains continue to recede. Consequently, residents of several areas were able to return home and clean the flood-ravaged residences. In the meantime, the National Disaster Relief Services Centre notes that funds have been disbursed to district secretaries to finance the 25,000 rupee allowance provided by the government to aid cleanup efforts.
රුපියල් 25000ක දීමනාවක්
25,000 rupees will be provided to each home struck by floods in a bid to aid cleanup efforts. This allowance will be provided to all houses affected by floods. You can claim this allowance through the Grama Niladhari officer or the designated development officer of your region. Meet them or inform them of the situation. Once they are informed, steps will be taken accordingly. Meanwhile, steps will be taken to visit each flood-damaged house to compile the necessary reports. Funds to provide allowances have been released to all districts island-wide.
25000 දීමනාව ගෙවීමට අදාළ මුදල් ප්‍රතිපාදන නිදහස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
Operations to clean up the Kaduvilla town as well as the stretch of the low-level road from Kaduvilla to Ambatale continued through the course of the day. Representatives of the National People's Power also joined these efforts. Though flood waters have gradually receded, many areas including Kaduvilla, Anguda, Kottakawath and Gothatuwa continue to remain inundated. Water levels of all major rivers have now reached usual levels. The water level of the Kalni River too was seen at its usual level. In the meantime, the Department of Meteorology revealed that the northeast monsoon is settling over Sri Lanka gradually.
Rainfall is expected in the north, north central, eastern and Uva provinces as well as in the Hambantota and Matale districts. Rains or thunder showers can be experienced in other areas after 1 p.m. tomorrow. Heavy rainfall reaching up to 75 millimeters can be expected in certain areas within the western and Sabaragama provinces.
Off the back of the forecast issued by the Department of Meteorology, rain struck several areas including Malebe, Aturugiriya, Kalaniya and Colombo today. Meanwhile, yesterday Galagidara received rainfall. The National Building Research Organisation meanwhile extended evacuation red landslide warnings issued to 40 divisional secretariat divisions across the districts of Kandy, Kegol, Matale and Kurunegala. According to the latest report issued by the Disaster Management Centre, a total of 486 fatalities and 341 missing persons were recorded from across the country as of 6 a.m. today. The Kandy district alone reported 118 deaths and 171 missing. 89 deaths were reported from the Nuwara district while 73 persons are still unaccounted for. 83 fatalities were reported from Badulla and 28 individuals remain missing. The Kegol district reported 30 deaths and 41 disappearances. 1,814,534 individuals of 509,680 families continue to be affected by adverse weather conditions. 171,492 persons of 48,559 families remain in 1,236 safety centres island-wide.
ඔබේ සම හඳුනාගෙන ඖෂධීය ශාකසාරමේ Forever face wash එකක් භාවිතා කරන්න.
අප වෙනුවෙන් කැපවූ ලංකාවේ අපේ අංක 1 ඩයලොග්. දවටනේ නියම මිල සඳහන් ස්විස් ටෙක් නිෂ්පාදන මිලදී ගන්න. ස්විස් ටෙක් ගන්න ඕන හොඳම තීරණය.
Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma says that over 19,000 Sri Lankans employed overseas have contributed to the Rebuilding Sri Lanka Fund. Meanwhile, the Asian Development Bank has approved a $3 million disaster relief grant for Sri Lanka as several countries and organizations continue to extend their support. Sri Lanka will also be given access to the 6th tranche of the IMF Extended Fund Facility, approximately $350 million within the next 2 weeks.
Many foreign nations are stepping forward to support Sri Lanka as the country begins to make its way towards reconstruction following the severe impact of Cyclone Ditwa. Extending its assistance, a C-130 aircraft from Pakistan arrived in Sri Lanka yesterday, carrying relief supplies and a search and rescue team.
Yesterday, Honorable Prime Minister of Pakistan also had a phone call with the Honorable President of Sri Lanka and expressed his profound grief over the devastating loss of life and widespread destruction and discussed measures for relief operation. Pakistan stands in fully solidarity with Sri Lanka. In moment of adversity, our friendship has always found renewed strength and will continue to get strong.
Meanwhile, an Indian aircraft carrying emergency relief supplies arrived in Sri Lanka last night. The cargo included a 50-ton Bailey bridge, 500 2-litre water purification systems and medicines. Along with the cargo, 11 doctors and 11 engineers also touched down in Sri Lanka.
Today, the
Globemaster C-17 aircraft carrying first of the three Bailey bridges. That was requested day before yesterday when the President spoke to the Indian Prime Minister.
Another Bailey bridge was transported to Sri Lanka this afternoon and is expected to be installed in Kandy. The Netherlands has also expressed willingness to assist in the reconstruction of bridges destroyed by recent floods and landslides. The Netherlands made this pledge during a meeting between Dutch Ambassador Wiebe de Boer and Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. A team of 41 Japanese doctors and hospital staff arrived at the Katunayake airport today to establish a field hospital to provide medical treatment for disaster-affected communities. The temporary hospital will be set up near the Chilaw General Hospital.
මේ සෙප්තැම්බර් මාසයේ අතිගරු ජනාධිපති අනුර කුමාර දිසානායක මහතාගේ ජපාන් සංචාරය හරහා අපේ දෙරට අතර තියෙන මිත්‍ර සමරතාව ශක්තිමත් වුණා කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Meanwhile, the Japan International Cooperation Agency donated a consignment of relief supplies to the Disaster Management Center yesterday. The Chinese government too provided $1 million in financial assistance and emergency supplies valued at 10 million yuan to the Sri Lankan government today. The Asian Development Bank has approved a $3 million disaster relief grant for Sri Lanka through the Asia Pacific Disaster Response Fund, supporting ongoing post-cyclone operations across the island. In addition, the Australian government has announced a further $2.5 million in aid, supplementing the $1 million already provided. Meanwhile, Secretary to the Ministry of Finance Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma says over 19,000 Sri Lankans employed abroad have contributed to the Rebuilding Sri Lanka Fund, aiding national recovery efforts following the devastation caused by Cyclone Ditwa. Hutch Telecommunications has also contributed 60 million rupees to the Rebuilding Sri Lanka Fund. The CHEC Port City Colombo has contributed 13 million rupees to the Rebuilding Sri Lanka Fund and has deployed its full fleet of disaster response machinery to the central province, responding to the urgent need to restore access to communities affected by Cyclone Ditwa. During a high-level forum co-chaired by Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and the Secretary to the Ministry of Finance Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma, the International Monetary Fund announced that Sri Lanka is expected to receive swift access to approximately $350 million, the sixth tranche of the extended fund facility, within 2 weeks. The meeting held at the Ministry of Finance reviewed the aftermath of the cyclone and coordinated assistance for relief, rescue and restoration efforts. Diplomatic missions, bilateral and multilateral development partners, and international lending agencies took part in the discussions.
30% discount on Apico Farm and Spring mattresses, available at Apico Supercenter and Apico Daily.
Musa Phoenix Natal Fiesta November 13 සිට 16 දක්වා අනුරාධපුර ස්පොට්නික් ක්‍රීඩා පිටියේදී.
Welcome back to First at 9. Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, says that the Sri Lankan and Indian governments are already in discussions to ensure food and health security as the island nation begins restoration and reconstruction following the recent adverse weather. Joining our current affairs program, the Indian envoy stated that India is also in discussions with Sri Lanka to strengthen its disaster management planning systems while continuing to send additional relief to the country. He further noted that along with the medical equipment being provided as part of the relief programs, India is also prepared to supply more medicine if Sri Lanka makes such a request.
This is a very difficult moment in Sri Lanka, so my condolences to all those who have lost lives and suffered during this terrible cyclone. A natural calamity like that hits a country once in a decade, and this is one of those times. We were very quick as part of our neighborhood first policy to respond swiftly and quickly for a friend and a neighbor like Sri Lanka. We have so far provided something like 53 tons of material. Another 50 tons of equipment. We have deployed 2 Mi-17s, which is helping with transporting Sri Lankan troops as well as rescuing people and also distributing relief material. We also have deployed 80 strong NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force, which is a specialized force to handle situations like these from India. We have also transferred 2 Bhishma cubes. These are they turn into an operation theatre with all the basic equipment. They have X-ray units, everything. They are self-sufficient, and each unit can actually cater to 200 patients in a day. Similarly, we will have more equipment coming in. They'll be bringing other types of communication equipment, Bailey bridges, which is needed to connect some of the bridges that are now not functional. We've come well equipped, and we are going to stay here as long as the government of Sri Lanka wants us to stay. We started delivering even before we were asked. Nobody requested from the Sri Lankan side when our supplies began. That is why I gave you the timeline. I conveyed that we are sending these supplies. We were not asking what you need. You help people, friends who are in need, and you don't use it for propaganda and spreading lies and canards. There are many areas where you can visibly see the damage, and all of the issues that you mentioned will be something that we will be working on to find ways and means in which how we can, assist or be of help to Sri Lanka. And we will be putting together some kind of a program in cooperation with government of Sri Lanka based on their own assessments and requirements as to how India can provide assistance. Some conversations have already begun to look at how disaster response systems can be made better, and we can coordinate on this much more in real time, and we have the capacity to prepare for it in a better way than maybe we may have been able to do this time. Every experience is a learning occasion. You can improve your systems and how we can do that. That kind of thing will also have to take place, and this is something we will be initiating very soon in a very concrete way.
Going forward, High Commissioner, how do you think India, and with, of course, the mission's intervention, work on the aspect of ensuring food security in Sri Lanka?
Try to see how we can meet those requirements. We are looking at supplying food more and more for the immediate need, at least in the short term. And already conversations are going on how some of the shortages that may be anticipated could be fulfilled through quick imports or supplies from India by the government. So we are working on those issues. Other thing that will be very important is the health aspect. We are bringing in some safe drinking water assets on a larger scale, on a bigger scale we will be bringing in. And we are also looking at medical supplies, equipment. We have also supplied about 4.5 tons of medicines. And if there is more requirement, we can look at that.
Following the impact of Cyclone Ditwa, restoration work is underway across many affected areas, including repairs to roads, power lines and damaged tank embankments. As a result, access to several previously isolated locations has now been restored.
Reconstruction of the Kalawava Galevila Road, which was damaged following the opening of the Kalawava spill gates, also continued today. Restoration work is underway on the Tiripane Todamadua tank, Mahakandawala tank and several small tanks using sandbags with assistance from the irrigation department, government agencies and local communities. Repairs have also begun on the road where a bus was swept away by floodwaters from the Kalawe reservoir. Although people are currently using the road, it is still unsafe for vehicles. The damaged bus was recovered this afternoon. Despite landslides and ground subsidence causing repeated closures on the Colombo-Kandy main road, the primary route to Kandy has now been reopened. Rapid repair work is also underway on the Kandy-Mahiyangane and Badulla-Mahiyangane main roads to restore traffic flow. Meanwhile, clearing operations continue on the Valimadanurelli road, where a landslide had blocked the Boragassa area. The Sri Lanka Navy conducted an operation today to remove debris obstructing the flow of water under a bridge.
Welcome back to First at 9. Sri Lanka's recovery efforts following Cyclone Ditwa continued today with President Anura Dissanayake meeting officials from the National Housing Development Authority and the Ministry of Finance to assess the compensation process for affected families. Meanwhile, key institutions are working to restore essential services disrupted by the severe weather. Electricity, water, telecommunications and transport systems are being repaired while the Triforces continue large-scale rescue operations across the country.
A discussion between the President, the National Housing Development Authority and the officials of the Ministry of Finance was held today at the Presidential Secretariat. The discussion centered on the provision of compensation to cover the damage sustained by houses during the recent inclement weather. At the meeting, President Dissanayake highlighted the need to provide a sustainable solution to those living in areas at risk of landslides and floods. In a bid to make informed decisions in that regard, the President tasked the relevant officials with collecting all pertinent data and information. According to reports, 1,289 houses have been completely damaged and another 44,574 have been partially damaged by landslides. Taking the extensive crop damage into account, the Agricultural and Agrarian Insurance Board has set up several channels for aggrieved farmers to contact the authorities.
You can visit the Agrarian Service Centre to inform them of your crop damage. You can also draw the attention of the Divisional Agricultural Research Assistant through a letter addressed to him. You can contact the special hotline 1918 to inform them about crop damage. Farmers can also visit www.agrarian.lk to report crop damage.
Meanwhile, the Ceylon Electricity Board has restored a substantial amount of power disruptions across the country.
Due to adverse weather, electricity to around 3.9 million people was disrupted. At the moment, we have restored 86% of the disrupted power lines. There's still more to be done. We are expecting to expedite the restoration.
In the meantime, Minister of Housing, Construction and Water Supply Dr. Susil Ranasinghe also commented on the swift response to restore the supply of water.
At the moment, only 10 of the 156 affected water treatment plants remain unrepaired. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board plans to completely restore the water supply within 2 days.
Meanwhile, the Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, retired Vice Marshal Bandula Herath, also highlighted that 75% of telephone connections which were disrupted across 20 districts have been restored. The General Manager of the Department of Railways, Ravindra Padmapriya, commented on the restoration of the upcountry railways.
The Peradeniya Bridge has sustained significant damage. After conducting technical operations, we will come to a decision on what kind of solution we can provide.
In the meantime, Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Lasantha Rodrigo, also commented on the ongoing rescue missions conducted by the tri-forces.
Military operations to rescue affected individuals of the adverse weather and the restoration of daily lives are still ongoing. A total of 28,500 military personnel, including 25,400 from the Army, 700 from the Navy and 2,200 from the Air Force are involved in these operations. Since November 27th, the military rescued 31,057 affected individuals, including 27,776 rescued by the Army, 1,378 rescued by the Navy and 1,903 rescued by the Air Force. 8 helicopters of the Air Force are being used for the operations, including 3 Y-12 aircraft, 2 Beechcraft aircraft and 2 Mi-17 helicopters of the Indian Air Force.
ඉන්දියානු ගුවන් හමුදාවට අයත් MI-17 ගුවන් යානා දෙකක් මෙම රාජකාරීන් සඳහා එක් වී තිබෙනවා.
As inclement weather struck Sri Lanka, the expressway management waived charges levied at toll booths on the expressway.
NPP MP Lakmali Hemachandra yesterday accused Ada Derana of attempting to portray government inaction despite warnings issued by the Department of Meteorology in reference to an episode of Big Focus which aired 2 weeks prior to the devastating Cyclone Ditwa. Ada Derana categorically rejects the MP's accusations and asserts its position as an unbiased and responsible media institution that offered the Department of Meteorology a platform to communicate possible changes in weather in the interest of public well-being. Joining Ada Derana's Big Focus program on the 12th of November, Director General of the Department of Meteorology Atula Karunanayake made this statement on a possible change in weather during the coming weeks.
දැන් තුමා කිව්වා ඉදිරි කාල සීමාව තුළ තියෙන පුරෝකථන වලට අනුව වර්ෂාව අඩුවක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම තමයි මේ කාල සීමාවේ තියෙන කැළඹිලි ස්වභාවයන් නිර්මාණය වීමේ ප්‍රවණතාවයත් එක්ක මේක ඕනම වෙලාවක වෙනස් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් කියලා. මොන වගේ තත්ත්වයක් ඉදිරි සති දෙක තුළ අපි අපේක්ෂා කරන්න ඕනේ.
අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලා ප්‍රෙඩික්ෂන් එක දුන්නේ ගණිත ආකෘති වලින්. අපි දන්නවා වායුගෝලය වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඒකට ඒ අනුව තමයි ඔය කැළඹෙන ස්වභාවයල් ඉස්මතු වෙන්නේ. ඒතර මේ වෙන විට අපිට පැහැදිලිව පේනවා ලංකාවට ගිනිකොන දිසාවෙන් හැමදාම ඉතින් තියෙන බෙන්ගාල බොක්ක. ඒතර බෙන්ගාල බොක්ක ප්‍රදේශයේ වායුගෝලයේ කැළඹෙන ගතිය. ඒක අපි කියනවා පහළ වායුගෝලයේ කැළඹෙන ස්වභාවයක් ඉස්මතු වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට මේක දැනට අපිට හොඳට පේනවා. ඒතර මගේ එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් අනුව මට පැහැදිලිව පේනවා මේක අනුව මොන හරි වෙනස් වීමක්. ඒ කියන්නේ ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් එකක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ගොඩක් මේක තියෙන තැන අනුව අපිට මේකේ වක්‍ර බලපෑම නම් ලංකාවට තියෙනවා.
ගත්තොත් වර්ෂාපතනයේ ඉහළ
යෑම අනිවාර්යෙන් වෙනවා. ඒක දැනටත් අපි ප්‍රකාශ කරා. ඒ කියන්නේ 14 වෙනි පහුගින්දෑන් පස්සේ ඒ ගැන මේ හෙට අනිද්දා දැනට තියෙන වර්ෂාපතනයේ රටාව වෙනස් වෙනවා. හැබැයි මේක දැන් ක්‍රමක්‍රමයෙන් කැරගෙන ගමන් ඒ සෙන්ටර් එක හරිය තියෙන ස්පීඩ් එක වැඩි වෙනවා. අන්න ඔන්න අපි පැහැදිලි කරනවා දැන් මෙන්න අඩු පීඩන කලාපයක්. ඊට පස්සේ තවත් ස්පීඩ් එක වැඩි වෙනකොට පීඩන ආවපාතය. ඊට පස්සේ තමයි සුළි කුණාටු බවට පරිවර්තනය. කවදාකවත් සුළි කුණාටුවක් එකපාරට ඇවිල්ලා දාන්නේ නැහැ. ඔය විදිහට වර්ධනයක් වෙන්නම ඕනේ. හැබැයි මේකත් අපිට පේන්නේ දැනට කැළඹෙන ස්වභාවයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඉදිරි දින කිහිපය තුළ මට තියෙන එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් අනුව මේක අඩු පීඩන කලාප පීඩනාවපාත මට්ටමට යන්න පුළුවන්. සුළි කුණාටු කියන වචනේ දැම්ම මම කියන්නේ. හැබැයි ඒක තුළ අපේ ලංකාවේ තියෙන කාලගුණික තත්ත්වයේ දැනට තියෙනවට වඩා වැඩි වීමක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි චේන්ජස් වෙනවා නම් අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් දින කීපයකට කලින් දැනුවත් කරනවා. ඉතින් මම බොහොම ස්ථිතිවන්ත වෙනවා දෙරණ නාලිකාවට. මොකද හැමදාම ඔයවැනි වෙදර් එකේ වෙනස් වීමක් එනකොට ඕගොල්ලෝ අපිට කතා කරනවා. හැබැයි ඉතින් මෙහෙමයි වර්ෂාව එනවා කියන එකේ පොසිබිලිටි එක වැඩි.
ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි සැලකිල්ලෙන් ඉන්න ඕනේ මට්ටමේ වර්ෂාවක් ගැන අපි කතා කරන්නේ.
පැහැදිලි. මේ දවස්වල යනවා අපේ A level ස්ටුඩන්ට්ස්ලා ඒ ගැන විභාග ලියනවා. එතකොට මේ වගේ එක දිගට වර්ෂා ආවොත් ඒකට රියැක්ට් වෙන්න වෙනවා. ඒක පළවෙනි එක. අනිත් එක එක දිගට වහිනකොට වෙන සංසිද්ධියක් තමයි ගම් වතුරක් වගේ එන්නත් පුළුවන්. අනිත් එක තමයි එක දිගට වහිනවා කියන්නේ අනිවාර්යෙන් ලෑන්ඩ්ස්ලයිඩ් පැත්තටත් යන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් මේ වර්ෂාපතනය බොහෝ විට ඔය ඊස්ට් උතුරු මැද නැගෙනහිර ඌව මධ්‍යම ඒ වගේ පැතිවලටත් ව්‍යාප්ත වෙනවා නම් ඒ පිළිබඳ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් විශේෂයෙන් දැනුවත් කිරීම තමයි සුදුසු කියන එක මම ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
In the wake of all the death and destruction left in the wake of Cyclone Ditwa, National People's Power MP Lakmali Hemachandra in Parliament yesterday accused Ada Derana of attempting to portray government inaction despite warnings issued by the Department of Meteorology.
November 12 වෙනිදා warning එකක් දාලා තිබුණා කියලා මෙතන මන්ත්‍රීවරු කිහිප දෙනෙක්ම ඒ අදහස අද පළ කළා. ඒ වගේම තමයි දින කිහිපයකට පෙර පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී මෙතන අපිට මතක නම් විශාල ගාලගෝට්ටියක් ඇති කළා. November 12 වෙනිදා warning එකක් ඇවිල්ලා තිබුණා කාලගුණ විද්‍යා දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවෙන් මේ warning එකක් ඇවිල්ලා තිබුණා අනුතරග වීමක් කළා තිබුණා නිවේදනයක් කළා තිබුණා ඒකට අනුව රජය ක්‍රියාත්මක වුණේ නැහැ කියන අදහස ජනගත කරන්නට සමාජගත කරන්නට මම නම් කරලම කියනවා දිලිත් ජයවීර මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ දෙරණ නාලිකාව විසින් තමයි ඒ කාරණය ඉෂ්ට කළේ.
ඔන්න ඕක තමයි දුෂ්ට දේශපාලනය කියන්නේ. මේ දුෂ්ට දේශපාලනයේ වර ගත ප්‍රවේශයම දුෂ්ටයිනේ. මම ඇවිල්ලා මේ දෙරණ නිවුස් කියන කෙනෙක්ද?
දෙරණ නාලිකාව තමයි මේ මතේ අදහස ප්‍රකාශ කළේ. ඊට මම අභියෝග කරනවා. නොවැම්බර් 12 වෙනිදා මොකක්ද ආපු warning එක? කවුද කිව්වේ? කාලගුණ විද්‍යා දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ මොකක්ද මේ ආපු warning එක කියලා මෙතන කියන්නට ඕන.
දැන් එතුමිය කියන කරුණ දෙරණ නාලිකාවේ ඒ කරන ලද සංවාදයක් කාලගුණ විද්‍යා දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ ප්‍රධාන නිලධාරී එක්ක කරපු සංවාදයක් අලලයි එතුමිය ඒ ප්‍රකාශය කරන්නේ. එතුමියට ඒ ප්‍රකාශය කරනවා නම් මාව පටලවා ගන්න එපා. එතුමියට පුළුවන් ඒ ප්‍රකාශය කරපු අයට විරුද්ධව කටයුතු කරන්න.
Ada Derana views the MP's statement as being ill-informed and therefore believes it is our duty to make the truth clear to the intelligent and rational public. The Director General of the Meteorological Department made the statement in question during an episode of Ada Derana Big Focus that aired nearly 2 weeks before Cyclone Ditwa plunged Sri Lanka into a disaster. Since the Director General of the Disaster Management Centre also featured on the programme, a question was posed to him on Sri Lanka's preparedness to face the situation forecast by the Director of the Department of Meteorology.
දැන් එවැනි අනතුරු ඇඟවීමක් තියෙද්දි මේක නිල වශයෙන් කිව්වේ නැතත් තියෙන ප්‍රවණතාවය පෙනෙන්න තියෙද්දි විශේෂයෙන්ම සුළං ප්‍රවාහයේ ඉහළ යාමක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් ආපදා ඉහළ යන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. ඒ ගැන විශේෂයෙන් මේ අවස්ථාවේ තියෙන සූදානම් මොකද්ද ආපදා කල්පනා කරන මතය?
ප්‍රථමයෙන්ම මේ ආපදාවක් සිදු වෙනකොට ආපදාවක් ආමු කරගන්න සියලු දෙනාගේම සහාය අවශ්‍යයි. ඒක සාමූහික ප්‍රයත්නයක්. රජයේ සියලුම ආයතන, පුද්ගලිකාංශය, රාජ්‍ය නොවන සංවිධාන ඊට අමතරව කොමියුනිටි එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් තමන් තමයි පළමුවෙන්ම සූදානම් වෙන්නේ.
As a responsible media organisation, Ada Derana's involvement in this incident was limited to raising public awareness on a possible change in weather and to provide a platform for the responsible authorities to inform the general public on such matters. MP Hemachandra's duty should be to ascertain whether the pertinent officials, beyond issuing statements to the media, had informed the responsible decision makers of the situation and, if not, pursue the reasons for that failure. Moreover, the MP must also acknowledge that Ada Derana does not collect weather data and that it relies on data published by the Department of Meteorology to inform the general public. Furthermore, Derana was not alone in broadcasting news on weather forecasts. International media on November 25th reported that Sri Lanka could receive rainfall exceeding 300 millimetres within the next few days.
Exceptionally heavy rain over the coming days, perhaps 300, 400, maybe 500 millimetres of rain falling, so there could well be some flooding. And in this area, well, we could see a tropical cyclone beginning to take shape.
MP Hemachandra's duty as a parliamentarian representing the governing party should not be to criticise Derana, but rather take appropriate action by clarifying the pertinent facts from the government officials who issued the relevant weather forecast. Derana is a media institution that has engaged in responsible reporting for 2 decades. It is not Derana, as the MP suggests, that should issue corrections for the weather forecast in question if it is erroneous, but rather the Department of Meteorology. If there is case for correction to be issued, Derana stands ready to provide a platform for it. We reiterate that the weather forecasts in question were issued by meteorology officials and not Derana, and that Derana at no point expressed an opinion on the matter. A joint humanitarian air operation by Sri Lanka Air Force and the Indian Air Force was underway today as both nations partnered to deliver urgent relief to the disaster-hit regions of Kothmale and Badulla. The mission is part of India's ongoing Operation Sagar Bandhu, launched to support those affected by the severe weather triggered by Cyclone Detwa. From takeoff to relief drop-offs, Derana's Indivari Ambuwata was on board the mission, bringing frontline updates of the coordinated rescue effort. Here's a closer look at the aerial relief operation that successfully delivered life-saving aid to communities cut off by the adverse weather.
I'm on an Indian aircraft Mi-17 airborne from Ratmalana Air Force Base and we are bound to Kothmale where the disaster relief efforts are most needed. This is part of the Operation Sagar Bandhu where they have deployed aircraft, personnel, crew, and these missions are run together with the Sri Lanka Air Force as a swift response to the humanitarian crisis, the disaster.
The aircraft is operating under the command and control of the Sri Lanka Air Force now. So they decide the mission, where the items have to be taken, where it has to be landed. Today we are in a mission to deliver as much relief material as possible. We are getting more of food items collected in Colombo to Kothmale to deliver to the affected people here. It has water bottles, dry rations and much needed items for the people.
Now we are passing by the landslide stricken areas and we can see heavy damage caused to the crop as well as land and other infrastructure. We've just landed in Badulla. What are we really doing now?
So we are transporting the relief material which is collected here and we are loading into the helicopter. Around 2 tons is the planned load today. And we'll be taking it to the next destination where the relief material is required.
You've been engaged in rescue mission. So today it's relief. Does this mean you all have now transitioned into a relief operation?
The initial 2 days were evacuation of people who are stranded in affected areas. That is the most important thing to do in the first 2 days. Subsequently, when all the evacuations are over, the focus is shifted to transporting relief materials.
A large community is gathered here to receive relief items. Again, it's a gigantic operation here, as you can see from the number of communities that are gathered here. Together with the Sri Lanka military and the Indian operation that is ongoing, a gigantic mobilization that you're part of.
We are always there to support Sri Lanka. The government always is the first responder in any situation which happens in Sri Lanka. So we are always there for any assistance that the government of Sri Lanka requires.
This mission will continue for the days to come until every corner of Sri Lanka is met with the urgent requirement. Together with Tilina Gunaratna, I am Indiveri Amuatta for Other Derana.
The Manusat Derana Dialogue Flood Relief Operation continued today, providing relief supplies and essential items to people affected by adverse weather. A separate initiative to clean up houses submerged by flood waters also commenced today.
The Manusat Derana Dialogue Flood Relief Operation, launched 6 days ago, continues to assist communities affected by the adverse weather conditions. Throughout this period, contributors have come forward in support of the national initiative, with donors arriving at the TV Derana headquarters in Colombo throughout yesterday and even late into the night. The collected donations were promptly dispatched and delivered to multiple affected areas by the Manusat Derana Dialogue team. The Manusat Derana Flood Relief Operation has been underway for a week. Donations continue to pour into Derana headquarters in Colombo to be safely distributed to people affected by floods and landslides. Essential items are especially needed, including rice, dal, tea, sugar, baby products, hygienic products and cleaning supplies. Despite heavy rains returning to Colombo this evening, the Manusat Derana Relief Operation continues uninterrupted. Meanwhile, a separate initiative to clean homes inundated by floodwaters commenced in Giriulla today with the support of volunteer groups.
As Sri Lanka faces the devastating consequences of Cyclone Ditwa, several religious ceremonies took place island-wide to bless those affected by Ditwa and also in remembrance of those who tragically lost their lives. A number of Buddhist religious services took place across the island in line with the Unduwap Poya Day.
The Ratana Sutra was chanted today at the Temple of the Tooth Relic in Kandy to bless the general public in the wake of the recent devastating disaster faced by Sri Lanka. 100 monks led by Chief Prelate of Asgiri Chapter, Most Venerable Warakagoda Sri Jnana Ratana Thero, chanted the sutra. Meanwhile, a Pirit chanting ceremony to invoke blessings for those affected by the inclement weather across the island took place at the Ruanvali Mahasaya premises in Anuradhapura. The sacred sermons was chanted in Pali by 100 Buddhist monks led by Chief Incumbent of the Ruanvali Mahasaya, Most Venerable Italavatnuave Jnanatilaka Thera, and Chief Sanganayaka of the United States of America, Aggamaha Pandita, Most Venerable Dr. Walpola Piyananda Thera. Meanwhile, a ceremony to perform the final rites of all victims who lost their lives in the wake of Cyclone Ditwa took place at the Mihintale Rajamahawihara. A religious ceremony was also held at the Muthiangana Rajamahawihara in Badulla today to dedicate merits to those who perished in the disaster and to also pray for the speedy recovery of those who were injured. At the ceremony were friends and families of 22 deceased victims, all of whom were residents of Badulla, Hailiyala and Soranatoda Divisional Secretariat Divisions. In the meantime, Anunayaka of Malwadu Chapter, Most Venerable Dimul Kumbure Vimala Dhammathera, noted that the Asgiri Mahavihara as well as the Temple of the Tooth Relic will continue to provide food and humanitarian aid to the people affected by the disaster. Sanitary and cleaning products were donated to 50 affected families in the Vaikala area of Vennapur by Venerable Sri Samantabhadra today.
That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Stay safe and have a great night.